Family and friends in Mountain View are coming to grips with the shocking murder of a college student, 22-year-old Rebekah Gould.
This beautiful young woman with her whole life ahead of her goes missing, and the whole town was on edge.
It was so unusual for something like that to happen here.
The police found this very bloody crime scene.
It scared everybody.
There was a lot of rumors, a lot of speculation.
It divided the whole community.
There is so much he said, she said. What is the absolute truth? What do we know for certain?
I thought the investigation was in serious trouble.
The narrative that we had been fed by the police was wrong.
He told me there are certain cases that will never be solved. Crazy.
Something completely random has happened, and that didn't make sense.
If you didn't kill her, you know who did. And if you know who did, you have got to come forward.
I got a call from someone who said that they had worked with Casey, putting up like cell phone towers in the years around 2010. And they said that Casey was drunk and was sort of talking about the case. Casey had told them Rebekah was trying to break up with him, and we aired a short interview with this person on the podcast.
He said that she was telling him that this would be the last time that he saw her because they were, I guess, coming to an end. They got into it, and the way he said it, he just lost it. When he said he hit her with a wooden object, he said on his way, he stopped on the guy bridge and threw it out.
When the interview aired, it stirred up all sorts of speculation, and all of a sudden, Casey was back in the spotlight.
One of the first things that I was trying to figure out was what the relationship was between Rebekah and Casey. When I spoke to Casey's friends, they told me he described her as the love of his life, but Danielle had told me that Rebekah was ending things with Casey.
Just before she disappeared, Rebekah had told me that she was leaving and moving to the Fayetteville area, so she was going to be breaking up with him.
There are plenty of murders where the motive is an unwanted breakup, but in 2004, when Casey was first questioned, he downplayed the fact that they had broken it off.
Did y'all split up, or what took place?
Well, we did split up. We decided that, it'd be better if we just stayed friends, and that's what we did. We still spend an awful lot of time together, though.
There's other circumstantial evidence that makes Casey a viable suspect. The week that Rebekah was missing, his behaviors were extremely odd.
All right, so this is my statement from when we were first interviewed by the investigators at Israel County Sheriff's Office. I had been told by Casey that Rebekah was supposed to have picked him up, but that she hadn't shown. We all returned to my house at around 11:30 p.m. Casey used my phone. After he had hung up, he stated that Rebekah was missing. That's when it really seemed odd that he didn't head out the door to find her. When you look back at all the things that don't make sense, well, sure, it raises eyebrows. Even as a friend, it's like, well, I don't know why you didn't even go back that night to check on her.
Immediately after Rebekah went missing, it seemed like everyone in the town was looking for her. Casey, however, was not part of that search party.
I met Casey at my daughter's graduation. He was absolutely taken by Rebekah. So when there was very little effort on his part to help in the search, that became a real red flag for me.
I met Casey in 2010 in Texas. My dad was a project manager for cell phone towers. And he had a worker from Arkansas that he'd been working with, and that person brought on Casey. He was kind of a hipster dude, cute, had a little swagger about him, I guess you could say. I would not have guessed that he was from Arkansas just from like talking to him. He felt a little more cool than that. He had a very fairy tale way of looking at life. Eventually, he just moved in, pretty much. Casey told me about Rebekah when we were getting to know each other. My immediate reaction was I felt bad for him, for what he had been through. I could tell that he cared about her a lot. It seemed like he really loved her. I didn't even ask him if he was a suspect. He was such a nice guy that it was easy to go, there's no way he did it. So we go to Arkansas. We went to his house, and we went inside, and we bring our stuff into the first bedroom, and I hop down on the bed, and I'm looking out the window. All I could think about was Rebekah, and I was thinking, wow, this is so far from everybody. And I'm like, he could get away with anything out here. I just couldn't take it anymore, and I asked him where her body was dumped. He got frustrated with me, and he said, it's 10 minutes from here. It's a different highway. Let's move on. I was worried because he would not tell me anymore. I couldn't trust him. Casey went back to Arkansas, and then I hear nothing else until the podcast.
They got into it, the way he said it, he just lost it.
I remember where I was standing when I heard that. I was cooking breakfast, and I just kind of hit the floor. The witness said he was working on towers when he confessed. My sister actually was like, we know that guy. It's gotta be that guy. And sure enough, it was.
We went to the witness's house, took the statement, and at that point, it became part of the official case file. That's when Dennis talked to Casey.
This is all hogwash. I'm here to hear your side of the story, okay?
In 2018, Casey was living back in Arkansas, and when Special Agent Simons took the witness's story to him, Casey denied ever working on cell towers at the same time as the witness.
So we were never, ever working together. Never stayed at a hotel together while out working on cell phone towers. So this is all made up, and I don't know why he would make up stuff like this unless he's trying to hide something. And I never ever said, this has never happened. Nothing of this ever happened.
The witness was very believable to me. He's worked with my dad, but I could never prove that they were at the same hotel at the same time.
Investigators could not find corroboration that the witness and Casey ever worked on cell phone towers together, and they didn't think the story was credible. Investigators believed that Rebekah was killed the morning of Monday, September 20th, and Casey had an ironclad alibi.
People handle situations differently. And the way that all my family has handled it is don't talk about it, stay out of the spotlight. When you don't have a story to tell, there's nothing to tell. Casey McCullough is my son. Casey was always such a loving young man. There was no way he could have done anything like that. That's just not Casey. When she was missing, he was very distraught. He couldn't get his hand around it. You know, who would have done such a thing? But, you know, rumors have their way of going around. Some people were thinking he had something to do with it. It was kind of difficult to even go to town. People might have their hand over their mouth, whispering to someone else. We were the talk of the town.
Ultimately, Casey kind of just became a recluse and sequestered himself from everyone. And he was just different from then on, as you would be, you know. I believe in my heart that there's no way Casey would be involved in anything that would be harmful to Rebekah, you know. So the longer this goes unsolved, you start to think something completely random has happened that none of us can see because it is just so random.
The podcast ended, and I had the feeling that all this effort was for naught. It's not going to change. But then I got an email in my inbox. It was from a criminology professor at American Military University. She had heard me on the Helen Gone podcast, and she became very intrigued with Rebekah's case.
That house is remote. You have to know it's there.
Right.
I am a combat Army veteran and former counterintelligence agent, and I'm a criminal investigator for my local sheriff's office in Colorado. I binged the podcast, and I was pretty much hooked. But what hooked me is some of the specific actions that Rebekah's killer took in the aftermath of her murder. It's got to be someone with a tie to that residence. They've been there before.
Yeah.
Because they took her out that back door.
They did. Jennifer saw this case the way I saw it. Whoever killed Rebekah Gould moved her body and cleaned up the mess. These are critical details that cannot be ignored. That means that the killer has an intimate connection to the house. They leave all of this evidence. They leave her car. They leave her dog. So they're gonna know this was the last place she was.
Right. By the end of 2018, it was clear that Dennis Simons had focused the majority of his efforts towards trying to find things that would implicate Chris. But why would he stick around and remove Rebekah's body to a secondary location? And why does he care about cleaning up Casey's bedroom?
When you develop a theory about a case, if your theory is wrong, you will potentially miss key details that could lead you in other directions. You just dismiss them because they don't fit your theory.
And I promised Rebekah that I would find her killer. It was a promise to never quit. She deserved that. So I filed a complaint with the Arkansas State Police against Dennis Simon. One of the things that I mentioned was if this case is ever going to be solved, that Dennis Simon would have to be removed and another investigator brought in.
In 2020, out of the blue, I got a call. I saw the Arkansas State Police number flash up, and I picked up, and this person said, "My name's Mike McNeil. I'm a new investigator on the case. I hear you may have some recordings for me."
I was told by a source inside the state police that they had had enough of the bad publicity. Now, their public statement was that Dennis was retiring, and they assigned Special Agent Mike McNeil to take over the case in January of 2020.
He did the one thing nobody ever did. He came to my office. For the first time, I knew I was getting somebody that was sincerely listening to what I had to say. And he did exactly what I asked to be done in my letters. Go back to the beginning.
Going to attempt to interview Casey McCullough. It's March the 16th, 2020, at approximately 3:30 p.m. It's nice to finally meet you.
Yeah, I was waiting on you.
George and I did have communication with Mike, and I could just tell from some of the questions he was asking us that he was looking at the McCulloughs.
Casey, listen, man, whoever did this spent at least an hour or more doing laundry and trying to clean up.
That's what I always thought. I was like, why would someone do that? And then the first thing that crossed my mind is they were on drugs and they didn't realize what they were doing. Chris, his adopted parents, they owned a trailer like 5 minutes down the road. Did y'all check that out?
When Casey talks to Special Agent McNeil for the first time, he throws out the same theory that the previous investigator had, but McNeil completely dismisses that idea.
People on drugs that kill people flee immediately or they burn the place to the ground. You think Chris is gonna hang around a homicide and do laundry? Listen, there is so much he said, she said in this case file. What you do is you focus on what is the absolute truth. What do we know for certain?
Mike McNeil clears Casey because of his alibi. He clears Claude, Casey's dad, because he was driving a truck in upstate New York at the time. And then he starts going one by one through all of the male members of the McCullough family that had ties to the trailer where Rebekah was killed.
At the same time, Jennifer and I decided that we were going to start a Facebook page.
Unsolved Murder of Rebekah Gould.
And we started getting a flood of members.
We wanted as many people as possible. And we never censored comments. We actually encouraged people to brainstorm, give us your ideas.
We followed it every post.
Every step of the way.
Every step of the way, and we'd call each other and discuss it. What do you think? Or what do you think?
People were constantly fighting online. Like, if it was one of Casey's friends or one of his relatives, they were defending him, and then somebody would chime in and say, oh, you must have had something to do with the murder too. And it was just conversations like that, and they would just erupt.
My sister was very vocal on the web page. My sister is very opinionated, and she can take so much, and then she gives her opinion, whether they want it or not, I guess.
George and I hoped it would bring people out of the woodwork who maybe knew what happened to Rebekah. And then a guy named William Miller joined the group.
He was from the Philippines. We could tell that, you know, from looking at his profile. Why is somebody from the Philippines joining our page?
Now, we had a member of our volunteer team, I guess you could call it, who had mapped out Casey's whole family tree.
Jennifer, she texted me and she said, do you know who William Miller is? And I said, that is Casey's cousin. That's his first cousin.
I thought, he's in here under his real name. Okay, you would think he might be concerned that we know he's a member of the family. But, you know, we weren't gonna stop him. We were just monitoring him. It was in January of 2020 when I received the first direct message from William Miller. The first thing he sent me was a screenshot of a newspaper article. So I responded like I do to everybody else. I just kept it cordial and normal, but we continued to communicate throughout 2020 about different topics. Several times he said that he hoped I would get justice for Rebekah. He said, I think you can solve this. I said, how did you even learn about this case? And he just said, podcast, one word. A couple months later, I brought it up again. I said, I can't remember if I asked you, but have you been to Arkansas? Like, did you know anybody, like, related to this case or something like that? And he responded with, I've been to all 50 states. I said, okay, so he's definitely trying to hide his relationship to Casey's family. We had done our research and we knew that he'd been living in Texas in 2004, and he had a fiance and a small daughter.
And then Jennifer and I learned something that was a bombshell. We found out that William Miller had been in proximity to Rebekah within hours of her murder.
September of 2020 was a turning point for our investigation. That is when somebody reached out to me and told me that William's brother, Jeremy Miller, had attended at Mount Pleasant High School in 2004.
William Miller's mom, Linda, and his brother Jeremy had moved to Arkansas before the murder, and they lived 2 miles from Casey's house.
The other part of the tip was that the day after Rebekah's disappearance, Jeremy Miller was taken out of school and never seen again. And when Jeremy was pulled out of school, there was another guy with the mom. He was described as definitely older than Jeremy, but not the mom's age. He was reported as acting suspiciously, like looking out the windows to see who might be around. The mom isn't married, she didn't have a boyfriend that we knew, like who else would it have been? We concluded that that probably was William Miller. That was the tip we needed. That was the turning point for us. And I realized his motive for joining the Facebook group was probably much different than I originally thought.
Now, here's the thing. The police knew that William Miller had been in town that weekend.
Remember, Casey had said that a cousin of his had come to the trailer on Sunday night.
Rebecca, she looks out the window and she sees somebody out on the dirt road. And I told her it was my cousin. I went out there and we talked a little bit. I went back in and he left out.
Your cousin, what's his name?
His name is Billy Miller.
Back in 2004, a few days after Rebekah was reported missing, the Arkansas police did actually follow up on this lead. They had police in Texas track down Billy along with his mom and his brother.
What Linda told investigators was that shortly after they got to the Melbourne area, Jeremy started having trouble in school.
So she decided she wanted to move back to Texas where they were from. And so on Sunday, Billy came up to help them move. Billy told them basically the same story that Casey does, that he just showed up at Casey's house. He just was there for a few minutes. They talked, and that he left, and that the next day, the same day Rebekah vanished, they decide they're gonna take this impromptu trip to Branson, Missouri, which is 3+ hours away. And she said the next day, they get Jeremy out of school and they pack up all their stuff. On Wednesday, they move to Texas.
The Arkansas State Police apparently found the answers pretty satisfactory, and then that was the end of it. They talked to them once.
After that, that lead was left alone for 15 years. As soon as we found this out, we start going over the things he was saying on our page. It was clear from his messages that among all of the McCulloughs, he was the one who really focused in on some of these details.
So I made sure that the person who reached out to us went to Investigator McNeil and told him there's recollections. Well, Mike did his due diligence and conducted a background check on William Miller to see if he had a criminal history. There had been a couple accusations made about him, but that those accusations never resulted in charges or a conviction. One was aggravated assault against his ex-wife, and another was molestation of a minor, a child.
William Miller lives in the Philippines. He worked on oil rigs all over the world. Special Agent McNeil put a flag out for his passport. He said he's not a suspect in this murder, but he's someone I want to talk to, so let me know when he comes back into the country.
So he gets the notification in October of 2020, and he knows William is in the country at this point.
William Miller was in Oregon because his mother and brother were now living in Oregon. McNeil calls Linda Miller, and he says, hey, you know, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to Jeremy, and I need to talk to William.
And she said, I don't know when William's gonna be back home. You know, he works overseas, but Mike knows that William is in the US. If William has no involvement, why is she lying for him? After Linda Miller and Mike McNeil first connected, a couple days later, she called Mike back and informed him that William would be around in the near future.
So the state police sent Mike McNeil to Oregon to interview him in a little town called Cottage Grove.
Billy, if you want to have a seat right there. Yes, sir. You can take that mask off if you want to. I'll sit over here, and we'll try to stay 6 feet apart. Sure. And that kind of thing. So how's it going? Yeah, it's going all right. Yeah.
William Miller goes into the interrogation room to talk with Mike McNeil, and they're having a pretty bland conversation about the case, the facts.
Mike's building rapport with William, making him feel comfortable, all the typical stuff you do to put somebody at ease.
You got any kids?
I got 2 kids.
In the Philippines?
Yeah, in the Philippines.
And one of the key turning points is when Mike tells William, you know, there's others in your family who have been willing to take polygraph tests.
If you ever make it back to Arkansas, maybe we could, you know, get you to take a polygraph, because a bunch of people have taken polygraphs in that thing. You know, what are your thoughts on that?
You know, whatever you want, I'll give it to you. I don't have nothing to hide.
Yeah.
Mike basically says, well, you know what? Maybe this police department here has a polygrapher on staff that's available today.
Hey, Sergeant McNeil. Hey, do you happen to have a polygrapher in town? Do you have somebody available that could do a polygraph if we needed one?
Meanwhile, the polygrapher is already at the station ready to go.
Immediately, you can tell William's body language. He starts tensing up.
But it doesn't hold up in court, correct?
Right, that's, I'm not a polygraph guy, and when the polygraph guy gets here, he'll explain it all to you.
Moments later, the polygraph guy is in there, and now William's trapped.
Hey, Bill.
Hello, sir. Hello, how are you? Good, my name's David, State Police Detective.
He is asked several specific questions about if he had anything to do with Rebekah's murder.
First question is, did you cause that woman's death? Second one is, did you cause that woman to die? No. And then the next one is, are you responsible for causing that woman's death? No.
So he gets through the polygraph, and then, William pretty quickly asks, how did I do?
You failed the test.
I failed the test.
Yes. And so
My heartbeat felt like it was just beating out of my chest.
yeah. And so what that tells me is that there's a couple things this tells me, right? It tells me that this doesn't tell me that you're a bad man. It just tells me, hey, when you answer that question, you're not telling the complete truth. All right.
You can see it, the stress is just like emitting itself from him. And then he goes, I think Mike has some things to show you. So they switch. Mike McNeil comes back in the room and sits down.
And he's got a folder with him, with some files. He opens it up, and he shows William a picture of a rag. The rag that was found underneath the bed.
This is a washcloth that was under the bed that the killer used to clean up. It was wadded up in a ball, okay? We've got the killer's DNA on that washcloth, okay? Would there be any reason for your DNA to be on that washcloth? It shouldn't be.
Shouldn't be on there.
Then Mike McNeil goes to a second picture, and it's a picture of the inside of Billy's truck, the one that he owned at the time of Rebekah's murder. He had had the Texas Rangers track this truck down and had pictures taken inside of it.
That truck look familiar?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's your truck.
Yep.
Okay? Biological evidence, Billy, lasts for decades.
Then comes really the turning point. Mike brings out a photo of the floorboard of William's truck.
We got Rebekah's DNA next to the gas pedal in your truck.
Mike McNeil is using a time-tested technique here, the bluff. He's got no evidence linking Billy to this crime. The wash rag, the floorboard, there's no conclusive DNA on any of it, but he wants to see how Billy will react.
No question about it. Her DNA's in your truck. So what you have to do is you have to explain to me how that's possible. If you didn't kill her, you know who did. And if you know who did, if you're covering for Casey, dude, I'm telling you, you have got to come forward right now with what you know, because you cannot get around biological evidence in the floorboard of your truck. So tell me what happened, Billy. Tell me.
I did not kill her.
Who did? Tell me, Billy. Just tell me. Tell me what you did, how it happened.
Can I speak to my mom outside? I want to talk to her outside. Outside, and I promise to come back in here and tell you whatever you want.
You don't ever want them to leave the environment you're in. You don't want to stop the momentum. You don't want to give them a minute outside to second guess themselves. And Mike knows, he doesn't have anything to arrest William on, but he knows William can walk right out the door. What if I give in to this request? And his mom's like, let's go. It's very, very risky.
I'm not going to run from you. Just let me go talk to her right outside the door. You could be.
I need to stay in your presence.
And then Mike McNeil does something that I'm still astonished. He lets William get up.
All right. We're going to get your mom, and we're going to step out into the Southport, and you're going to tell her what you're going to tell her. and then we're gonna come back in here. Okay.
McNeil takes this huge risk and lets William Miller leave the interview, just leave the room, and go outside to talk to his mom. It was just when it seemed like he was inching towards a confession, he just lets him go.
That was one hell of a decision he made. But I think Mike read William well enough that he was gonna be able to get William back in the room.
Okay, we need to have a conversation. I held up my end of the deal. Let's talk. There isn't anything about this that you forgot. I know that because I've been doing this a long time. I'm just gonna tell you that I did it. I did it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for what I did.
And that's when Billy finally admits that he was the one who murdered Rebekah.
Walk me through it. I'm just gonna tell you that I did it. You can't just tell me you did it. You gotta tell me how you did it. I played everybody as a fool. Everybody. I never told anybody but you right now. I just whispered in my mom's ears, I need to pay for what I did, and I'm sorry.
And then William tells him this story.
Tell me how it happened. I was in the pasture, in the back pasture where there's a fence. I jumped over the fence where my vehicle couldn't be seen. Then went to the front door, knocked on the door. She answered, going into the place. Did you forcibly escort her to the bedroom? No. How'd that happen? I just asked to use the phone, so my DNA should be there. She went to lay back down, and then it happened. Why? It was like a light switch that just went off, and I don't know, it just was like angry or just kind of, I don't know. Where's the suitcase? Let's go to Arkansas and I'll point it out to you where I threw it.
When I talked to Danielle, she said Rebekah's oversized black suitcase was missing. Billy knew where the suitcase was. That was hard physical evidence that could tie him to this murder.
The suitcase was found on a piece of property that was across the street from the property where Linda Miller was living at the time of the murder.
So next to the suitcase, investigators found a comforter. They found some sheets that matched the pattern of bedding found in Casey's washing machine back in 2004, but they did not find a murder weapon, no piano leg, no necktie.
Breaking news update. A major breakthrough in a murder investigation that spans nearly 2 decades. An arrest has been made in the case of Rebekah Gould, who was killed in 2004.
44-year-old William Miller was arrested in Oregon after living in the Philippines for years.
Hearing that they had made him arrest, I was almost like, no, come on. But then it kind of, reality set in, and I realized they've got somebody.
I was an emotional wreck. It was a sense of relief, but then again, a sense of shock that this person that was arrested was no one that I knew Rebekah ever associating with.
William Miller, who is that? Like, was Casey's cousin. What cousin? And why did he do this?
William Miller pleaded guilty to the murder of Rebekah Gould. The prosecutor agreed to a plea deal.
William Miller was sentenced on October 18th, 2022. He got 40 years in prison, and he'll have to do most of those.
And he did something I've never, ever seen. He agreed to talk to her father after the sentencing.
I wanted to hear what happened. I wanted to hear answers. When I met him face to face in the jail area, his eyes were down. He wouldn't make eye contact with you. I had an opportunity to ask him some questions, and The minute he felt like he had an audience, the minute he felt like he was in control, his posture changed. He puffed out, he stepped, and then he started making more eye contact. The simple question he was asked was, what happened? Why? He said that he hit her and then immediately started giving her CPR. So give me a break.
The one thing that we know for a fact is that William Miller is a liar. There were several details that William Miller gave in his confession that did not make sense.
He claimed that he went to the McCullough property early on Monday morning. He killed Rebekah, took her body, disposed of her over on Highway 9, several miles away, did a semi-cleanup of the trailer, and said he was back home before his mom and brother even got up for his brother to go to school.
So I got home, went in there, and then got to the house, and Mom started, moving around and all that stuff. And I come out of the room. Okay. So she thought I was in the room and I was sleeping. Right.
So that timeline is impossible. There's not enough time for that to have occurred before his brother had to go to school. But the bigger problem is, if that was the time frame, then Casey is at the trailer, because Casey didn't go to work till about 8 a.m. that morning. So I know that that part of William's confession cannot be true. And this is another peculiar part. He never actually declares that he used the piano leg to hit Rebekah and murder her.
What'd you take in there? You're saying a piano leg. What? Piano leg? Is that what you used to hit her with? That's what's missing, right? No, I'm just saying, that's what's missing. I'm asking you, is that what was used to cause her injuries? Yeah.
I don't believe he falsely confessed, but I think there could be more to the story.
It seems strange to me that there literally is no real motivation. It just seems like there's something missing.
Camera speed, solid speed. This is Nathan's interview, take one, Mark.
My name is Nathan McBride. I am Billy Miller's cousin. He was one of my best friends for a portion of my life. And for another portion of my life, he was my enemy because of the things he had done to family members and others. Billy was a very fun guy to be around back then. When he was younger, he was a very attractive guy. So he obviously got a lot of the ladies. But I think his charisma and his ability to persuade was exceptional. Billy had a shoebox full of photographs, Polaroids he had taken, of women in the act of, and without exaggeration, hundreds and hundreds of photos, all different women. This was his trophy, I am not related to any of the family that's in Arkansas. That is on Billy's mother's side. So I had no knowledge of Casey or any of his side of the family whatsoever until I found out about the murder.
44-year-old William Miller was arrested in Oregon after living in the Philippines for years.
It's still unclear what led police to initially suspect Miller or his connection to the victim.
It was a shocker. I believe Billy went to the trailer to try to have a sexual encounter with Rebekah. And her resistance sparked him to commit the murder. I do believe he was the sole murderer of Rebekah. As far as Casey or any of the other McCulloughs, I honestly think that they were victims of this crime. Not near to the magnitude of Rebekah, but they were victims of Billy.
Rumors have their way of going around, and with people insinuating or saying that Billy ended her life, but someone helped him, is just a farce as far as me and my boys go. We did not know. Some people can't just drop the story. It's like a never-ending story. I am just glad that Rebekah's family got closure.
One of the most curious things about this case is that William Miller got away with Rebekah's murder for a very, very long time. It's almost like the renewed interest in the case lured him out of hiding, and he almost couldn't help himself.
I think he very much enjoyed the cat and mouse game that he played online, nobody knowing that he was actually the killer, that he could reveal himself when he wanted to reveal himself, and then he could go back into the shadows whenever he wanted to go back in the shadows.
At the plea hearing, I was told that I had to write a victim statement. 18 years ago, my life changed forever. 18 years ago, many lives were changed forever. My precious daughter, Rebekah Christian Gould, was taken from us. You took away a chance for a young, tenacious, and blossoming girl to dream of her possibilities in life. You took away from me my opportunity to watch those things happen. My daughter was dumped like trash. You were long gone. You have had 18 years of life, family, children, money, a career. Today that ends, and today I grieve. I will leave you with this one statement. Rebekah lives in all of us. She will never die. Rebekah inspires us all to better our lives and to know that love and grace are words I will remember her by. Sorry. For me to walk away at this point is something that I emotionally have to do. I want other families and people not have to go through what I've gone through. The problem is that if the law enforcement labels a case like this an active investigation, they never have to release their file.
These cases can go on for 15 or 20 years with one person in charge, with no release of information. There should be a process of oversight.
There's a point in time when this is no longer a murder case, it's a cold case. I'm not here to belittle law enforcement, but I think they need to change their procedures and get a different cold case team to come in at a certain point in time. Turn it over to people that are trained for this next phase of it. If there's anything that's obviously been overlooked, purposefully or not, it can be caught. So I'm asking for change. And to me, that's my way of giving back. I want it to be called a Rebekah Law, to honor Rebekah.